The humble grilled cheese, an absolute staple in most American kids' lives, the perfect afternoon snack, something that can be made super quick and easy with ingredients that are less than $1, or for other people, a food that calls for a $100 Wagyu steak to be involved, but we'll get to that later. But today, it is our job to find the best version of the grilled cheese that has gone viral in the past couple years, and we're gonna be starting with Kenji Lopez Alt's kind of classic grilled cheese, then moving on to binging with Babish's Inside Out grilled cheese, of course hitting up Walt Disney World's buffalo chicken grilled cheese, and then to round everything off, Guga's $100 Wagyu steak grilled cheese, as I mentioned earlier. And if you expected me to include Gordon Ramsay's burnt, crusty, raggedy-ass grilled cheese that everyone sent me, you are mistaken. I mean, look at that thing, guys.
No, it's not a good job. Don't start wetting your knickers now. It's not a fucking good job. I'm speechless.
If you find yourself remaking any of these sandwiches after this video, I would love to see it, so send me it over on Instagram. It is David_Seymour1. As always, I'd love to repost some of you, but let's get right into this one. First on today's cheesy agenda, we've got Kenji Lopez Alt and his classic-ish grilled cheese. I grabbed some Japanese shokupan bread and some aardvark hot sauce, spicy brown mustard, and some cornichons or tiny pickles, slices of aged cheddar cheese and Munster cheese, as well as some salt, butter, and some American cheese. Couple of minor notes with this one. I say classic-ish, obviously because of the bread. Not everyone's gonna have access to this Japanese shokupan bread. But as Kenji says in the video, essentially any white bread that you have will work. This is just a slightly softer and more yeasty Japanese version of our white bread that we have here. I do feel kind of bad for Kenji in these big versus videos because whenever I want the classic or basic version of a recipe, I usually go to somebody like him, which is unlikely to win and be the best recipe of the day, but I just want something that's guaranteed to be well-researched, made properly, and I'd say 99% of Kenji's recipes fit those descriptions perfectly, so if anything, take this as a compliment if you're watching this, Kenji. His sandwich comes together by toasting both sides of the bread, which I love. It increases the ratio of crispy butteriness in this. And then just toasting this off and letting that cheese melt low and slow. We don't want any burning, unlike somebody else's recipe that we have already touched on in this video. I already have a hunch that if you are looking for a go-to, surefire, late night or otherwise grilled cheese recipe, this method is gonna be the one for you. But in the spirit of the show, and also because I am extremely hungry, let's give this one a taste. I don't know why I don't make these more often. They're so quick. Almost everybody always has some kind of cheese and bread in their pantry. Maybe it's because I subconsciously know I shouldn't be eating stuff like this off camera to save my insides for these videos. But today, these are for video's sake only. As expected, delicious. This takes me right back to getting home from school after being pushed over in gym class or being pelted in the face with snowballs as I walked home. That makes it sound like I was bullied worse than I was. It happened a handful of times, but obviously they stick out. I love the combination of cheeses in this. I think the 3 different ones that he chose is perfect. And I love the ratios too. 3 slices of thick cut cheese sounds like a little bit too much, but depending on the width of your bread, I think that's the perfect ratio. And obviously, anything dipped in hot sauce and mustard is gonna taste good, so. Absolutely delicious. It is the classic done perfectly, in my opinion, as expected from Kenji, but let's keep it moving. Next up on the to-do list is binging with Babish's insane-looking inside-out grilled cheese. You will need some flour and sourdough bread, some Worcestershire sauce and dark brown ale beer, sharp cheddar slices, Dijon mustard, some English cheddar and dried mustard, a shallot, unsalted butter, and fresh chives. We are approximately 25% into this video and my intestines are already gurgling, so any prayers are appreciated. And the masochism continues with this recipe by the sheer volume of cheese that is going inside and going to be dumped over the top of this sandwich. I prepped up everything I would need for the cheese sauce, which was the fresh shallots, the cheese, and the beer. This cheese, by the way, is probably in the lead for the most expensive piece of dairy I have ever purchased by volume. This tiny little disc was essentially $20 in the grocery store. But Babish did say that you needed a good English cheddar for this sauce. This was the only one I could find in the store, so we'll have to deal with it for today. Now, it is very safe to say that I am extremely intrigued by... I promise that was not intentional. I am extremely intrigued by how this cheese sauce is gonna come out based on how concentrated it looks. You've got your onions in there, a ton of mustard powder, barely any beer, but a ton of cheese and Worcestershire sauce, so this should be pretty tasty or pretty overwhelming. We shall see. I then whipped up my mustard butter and smothered my 2 slices of sourdough in that. And this is going to get toasted in a cold cast iron pan, loaded up with the cheese sauce on top, and then eventually broiled to finish it off. I'm really perplexed by some of the methods that Andrew chose in this one. For one, he mentions that you want to under toast the outsides of the bread because it's going under the broiler. There's no way you're gonna get any extra toastiness on this bread with how much cheese sauce is smothered on top of it. You've got a gallon of cheese paste insulating any potential toastiness from happening. And also, I don't really see the point in transferring this to a wire rack and dirtying more dishes. Why couldn't we just throw the cast iron under the broiler? Is this the part of a home cook's progression where they start to nitpick recipes and complain about minor inconveniences? Possibly, but if it saves myself and you guys more dishes and time in the kitchen, I don't see what it can hurt. This did end up looking pretty good though, especially with those fresh chives sprinkled across the top. And now it is time to see how our second sandwich of the day turned out. I did let this cool off for a couple of minutes because much like a pizza bagel or a Hot Pocket, I feel like this thing is determined to scorch the top of your mouth. This is delicious. I did not get burned, but goddamn is it freaking pungent. Everything in here, from the mustard butter to the onions to that cheese, it is so strong. The English cheddar in the sauce I'm talking about, it is freaking rank. I feel like I'm just breathing hot fire right now. You've got 2 different alliums in here too, with the chives and the shallots. I would not eat this before going on a date, but damn is it good though. It does beg the question though, is it too much? I feel like there's a lot of really strong components here. They're all kind of battling for who's gonna dominate your mouth. One thing that's for sure better than the last one is the bread. I just prefer this kind of bread. It's crustier, it holds up better. The last one kind of got very squished and very thin by the end of it. I think right now I'm gonna have to stay with the first sandwich. That one's just so easy and delicious every time. I don't know if I'm thinking of a grilled cheese that I want to whip up a roux and a whole beer cheese sauce and then have it linger in my mouth and probably pores for the next 12 hours. So delicious and very unique, but it would not be my go-to over the first one. Batting third today is the buffalo chicken grilled cheese, popularized by Walt Disney World and released on their Parks blog. I acquired some olive oil and shredded cheddar, shredded Monterey Jack and salt, some mayo and buffalo wing sauce, sourdough bread, whipped nasty cream, fresh garlic and chicken breasts, pepper, an orange, some fresh parsley, and slices of provolone. I know you guys are probably expecting me to throw a fit that this recipe includes cream cheese. I couldn't really avoid it with this one, and it's been on my to-do list for a long time. At least it's a whipped cream cheese, so it shouldn't be quite as densely tangy and gross as the normal kind. But we will deal with that in a second. I started up with the chicken because the recipe leaves it pretty open-ended, saying use whatever kind of shredded chicken you like. This roasting method on a bed of fresh herbs and citrus and garlic has become by far my favorite. Shout out to Joshua Weissman for introducing me to this. I have found no other way to get chicken as juicy and consistently perfectly cooked as this. I have diced this up for tacos and crunch wraps. I've shredded it to put over salads or for applications like this one. It is extremely good, and I will leave the link to Joshua's crunch wrap video down in the description if you'd like to make this for yourself and see where I originally got it from. Now, some of you out there might be having the thought process that I did when I was accumulating recipes for this video. At what point are we making toasted chicken sandwiches or paninis that happen to have melted cheese in them? Is this one and the steak one that we're about to make even grilled cheeses at all? And to that I would say, I don't know. As long as cheese makes up 50% of what is inside the sandwich, I guess it could still be called a grilled cheese. I'll just let somebody else way above my pay grade figure out a concrete definition for that, or just let you guys argue amongst yourselves in the comment section. That's another big debate that we will have to acknowledge and talk about between grilled cheese lovers, whether butter or mayo on the outside of your bread is better. And this guy should help us get an answer to that because this toasted beautifully. It was super even and golden, probably the best looking toast on the day. It was smelling awesome as well, so let's crack this one open and see how it fares. You know what they say, if looks could kill. I know that's normally used in other applications, but with how much fat and calories and cholesterol's in this, I feel like it's applicable here too. Ow, hot. You guys might not believe me when I say this, but I really wanted to love everything about this. It went so viral and it looks incredible. But there's a lot of stuff I just don't like about it. It could be in my head because I know how much is in there. But I taste the cream cheese, I just can't help it. And when I get that tanginess, as soon as it enters my mouth, I just can't get it out of my head. Also, I don't like what the blender did to the chicken at all. I feel like that was such good chicken. It was shredded so beautifully, but with the blender, it kind of chopped it all up even finer into almost a chicken salad, which is a shame because we worked really hard on it and obviously I could have folded it in. I would do that next time, but I had to follow the recipe for this one. And for a buffalo chicken, it's not hot at all. Probably mostly because of the sauce I elected to use. It was a buffalo variety. And I did add a little bit more, like I said, but either I would have added even more than that or just picked another brand. This bread is still extremely good though. It's the same loaf I used for the last recipe, the same sourdough. And although I do prefer butter, I find myself missing that whenever I use mayo. It's good here. If you're a cream cheese buffalo chicken fanatic, I guess give this one a shot. But for me, another day, another cream cheese fail. Lastly, today is the king of the barbecue, king of the meats, I'm not sure what he calls himself, Guga Foods and his $100 Wagyu steak grilled cheese. I grabbed some white bread and salt and pepper, Parmesan cheese and sodium citrate, Wagyu beef and provolone, a block of sharp cheddar cheese, and some butter. So here we go, the grand finale. Right off the bat, I will admit that this is not a $100+ Japanese A5 Wagyu beef. Not only is that absurdly expensive, but I did not have the weeks to wait for them to ship it to me. This is a lesser expensive Wagyu cut, which does have some beautiful fat marbling in and of itself and was about 60 bucks, so it was still pretty close to the $100 sandwich title if you include the cheeses and bread too. As I do with any decent cut of beef, I am reverse searing this baby. This guarantees a perfect medium rare on the inside, as well as a super hard, crisp crust around the outside. And while I got the steak chopped up and started preparing the cheeses, a couple of notes with this one. The sodium citrate that I listed is going to get sprinkled in with our 3-cheese mix. This may sound scary, but it is actually pretty common in a lot of the foods that we eat, including American cheese. It's the reason why that is such a perfect melty and stringy cheese. So the idea to use it here with these super hard cheeses that don't love to melt is a pretty good idea. So we'll have to keep an eye on how that ends up working. And also, it cracks me up how much money he spent on that steak just for him to turn around and also use some good old straight up white bread and butter. You would expect a super frilly homemade garlic aioli to go around the outside or a homemade crusty sourdough. But Guga says, screw all that extra stuff and elects to keep the rest pretty classic. I piled up my final sandwich with what I thought were pretty good ratios of the beef and cheese. I will admit, this cheese did not want to melt at all. At least we got a little bit around the outsides. It was better than somebody else's cheese bricks that didn't melt a skosh. I'm sorry, I promise you, now I am truly done. Does this one look the prettiest or have the best, most aesthetic cheese pull on the planet? No. But for me, it is all in the flavor, so let's give our fourth and final recipe a shot. Not the best product shot at the end there was no cheese pull, but who cares, really? The more I've learned about food in general, whether it be commercials or other YouTube videos, like, cheese pulls are so overrated. They're so, like, fakely crafted. All the pizza commercials are Elmer's glue, and all the other YouTubers put more cheese on after they already cut through it. Like, who cares? I'm sure it's gonna taste the exact same with or without it. To nobody's surprise, this is extremely good, super tasty with all the different cheeses in there. Obviously that juicy steak. The bread is fine. Like I said, it's something that I would just whip up on a weekday as a snack for myself. Not super impressive, especially coming after the last two. And it could be in my head or that I'm looking for something where nothing is, but I swear that after you swallow, the aftertaste is a slight bit acidic. I don't know if that's from that additive. The sodium citrate, if anyone else out there has ever used that and had the same experience, please let me know. Or I just could have used too much of it, because I kind of dumped it in there pretty generously. Where does this rank though? As good as it is, this is not a grilled cheese, guys. This is a steak sandwich that happens to have some melty cheese in it. Could I have dumped in more cheese just to justify the ratio and to be able to call it a grilled cheese? Maybe, but I didn't want that. And the sodium citrate to add the illusion of a very stretchy American cheese was a good idea in theory, but I think I'd rather just a slice of American cheese mixed in with the other stuff too. All in all, super tasty. I will be finishing this for dinner today, but do I recommend you spend that much money? No. Buy a lesser, cheaper cut of steak, a New York strip or ribeye, and make a cheesy steak sandwich for yourself. But as far as this goes, missed the mark slightly. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave me a big old like. Let me know which recipe you'd like to see me try next on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Instagram if you do not already. And other than that, have a fantastic weekend. And I'll see you right back here next time. Peace.
With the M without the AD. Flipping burgers and my money super lazy. Try and make a meal tonight, they ain't paying me. Try and supersize my life with my 18. Yeah, our style wasn't wavy, but we had a vision.